Have you ever been right, but for all the wrong reasons? Well, today we're going to dive into a philosophy puzzle called The Lucky Guess. It's a really simple story, but oh man, it completely messes with the idea of what it means to truly know something.
So let me ask you something that sounds a bit like a riddle. What if you believe something, it turns out to be totally true, and you have really good reasons for believing it, but you still don't actually know it? Sounds impossible, right? But this isn't just some brain teaser. This is the heart of a huge philosophical puzzle known as the Gettier problem.
All right, to really wrap our heads around this, we're going to use a classic thought experiment. It's called the case of the cow. And trust me, it's a super simple story, but it exposes this massive hole in how we've defined knowledge for centuries.
Okay, so picture this. There's a farmer and he is freaking out. His prize cow, his absolute favorite, has just wandered off the farm. She's gone.
Then the local milkman drives by. He sees the farmer looking all worried and says, "Hey, no need to stress. I literally just saw your cow in that field right over there." So, okay, seems like a pretty reliable eyewitness, right? This is great news for the farmer.
The farmer's feeling a lot better. He looks out at the field the milkman pointed to, and yep, there it is. In the distance, he sees this big black and white shape that looks just like his cow. Perfect. Now he's seen it with his own two eyes.
So, naturally, the farmer thinks to himself, okay, I know my cow is in that field. And really, let's be honest, wouldn't you say the same thing? You've got an eyewitness plus your own visual confirmation. Case closed, right? Or maybe not. Okay, so before we get to the twist, and there is a twist, let's just pause and think about why the farmer feels so certain. From a philosophy standpoint, his claim looks rock solid. We can actually run it through a sort of knowledge checklist, a definition that's been the gold standard for literally thousands of years.
Yeah, for centuries. We're talking all the way back to ancient Greece with Plato. Philosophers agreed on what knowledge is. They called it a justified true belief. It's the classic tripartite theory of knowledge.
And it breaks down into three conditions that, just make sense. To really know something, first, you have to believe it. Makes sense. Second, it has to actually be true, obviously. And third, you need justification. You got to have a good reason to believe it. Belief, truth, justification. The big three.
So let's run our farmer through this checklist. Does he have a belief? Yeah, for sure. He believes his cow is in the field. Is his belief true? Well, for the sake of the story, yes, the cow is actually in the field. And does he have justification? Absolutely. He saw that cow-like shape, plus he had the milkman's testimony. He checks every single box, so he knows, right?
And this is where the whole thing gets weird. Because it turns out the farmer's situation isn't really about knowledge at all. It's about pure dumb luck. Because yeah, there's a twist. Here it is. That black and white shape the farmer saw, it wasn't his cow. It was a big piece of black and white paper that got caught in a tree. Meanwhile, his actual cow was in the field the whole time, but she was hidden behind a thick grove of trees where no one could see her. So the farmer was right, but for a completely wrong reason.
Okay, so let's ask that question again. Even though he has a justified true belief, does the farmer really know his cow is in the field? I mean, your gut reaction is probably the same as mine. No way, it feels like a total fluke. He just got lucky. He doesn't actually know.
And that right there, that's the core of the Gettier problem. It shows exactly why that old checklist, justified true belief, just isn't enough. It completely falls apart when the reason you believe something has nothing to do with why it's actually true. Think about it. The farmer's justification, his whole reason for believing, is that he saw a piece of paper in a tree. But the reason his belief is true is because his cow is hiding somewhere else entirely. His evidence and the actual truth are completely disconnected. There's no link. So yeah, he has a justified true belief, but he's only right because of a crazy coincidence. It's just a lucky guess. And whatever knowledge is, it has to be something more than just a lucky guess, right?
Now, this story and a couple of others like it caused an absolute earthquake in the world of philosophy. When a guy named Edmund Gettier published this stuff back in 1963, it kicked off this massive hunt for knowledge, because all of a sudden, a definition that had worked for over 2,000 years was just broken. I mean, just let that sink in for a second. This little story about a farmer and a cow proved that a core definition of knowledge, one that goes all the way back to Plato, was just plain wrong. That's a huge, huge deal in any field, but especially in philosophy. So what happened next?
Well, philosophers scrambled to try and fix it. They started looking for a fourth condition to add to justified true belief, something that would make the definition Getty-proof. They came up with all sorts of ideas, like your belief can't be based on a lie, or there has to be a direct causal link between the facts and your reasons. But honestly, even after all these years, the debate is still raging.
And that kind of leaves us with a final, pretty unsettling thought. The Gettier problem really makes you look at your own beliefs and wonder, what else do I know for sure that might just be a lucky guess? Definitely something to chew on. Thanks for joining this explainer.